Hi FPL community, it's Adam Hopcroft posting another video. This time I'm going to be talking about captaincy options for game week 9. Before I go through and do that, I just want to thank everybody for the great response from the first video I posted yesterday on whether to keep or sell Pookie. So thank you for anyone that subscribed, liked, commented, etc. I'm going to keep trying to post a couple of videos each week on the main talking points. So moving forward, if you get any ideas or if there's anything you want me to cover, do let me know. So today's session, I'm going to talk about the captaincy options. I think the best place to start is the two strikers that are being most talked about, and that is Callum Wilson and Tammy Abraham. For me, they tick everything that I like to see about a good captain. So number one, they're in form, both players are. Got very good underlying stats, which we'll talk about in a second. And they've got a very good fixture. I think Norwich and Newcastle at home, are prime for both of them getting a big haul. So it is a pretty difficult choice if you own both of the strikers. So let's look at some of the key stats of the players. So firstly, if you look, I've used understat for this, but if you look at the XG for both Tammy Abraham and Callum Wilson over the last 4 game weeks, Tammy Abraham has got an XG of 2.86. I think both of them are in the top 5, and Callum Wilson just slightly edges it with 2.91. So you can see that they're both getting very good quality chances. What I've done now as well is I've just refined it slightly. I've looked at the home matches versus non-top 6 opposition. So if we start with Tammy Abraham, now he's only started 2 matches and they were against Sheffield United and Brighton. But in those 2 matches at home, his statistics are phenomenal. So I'll talk you through some. He got 2 goals. He probably should have had a lot more than that. 6 shots on targets, 9 shots in total, but he's also created 6 chances as well. So some fantastic stats there. Looking at Callum Wilson, he's played 3 matches against non-top 6. He's played Sheffield United, West Ham and Everton. Got 3 goals, 7 shots on targets, 9 shots, but he's only had that 1 key pass. So I think looking at it, they're both getting great chances, but it seems to me that Abraham has probably got the slightly greater assist potential based off those stats. Appreciate there's not loads of matches to go off. The other thing I quite like about Abraham, he's coming up against a Newcastle team that will surely park the bus and play fairly defensive football. Now, he's already come across one of the best defences in Sheffield United at home, who approached it and made it quite difficult for them. But one of the things that, as a Villa fan, I'm able to see is that Tammy Abraham is so good at creating space for himself. I'm very confident he will get chances against Newcastle. His movement is absolutely exceptional. So that doesn't concern me that Newcastle will park the bus. And I think it was mentioned, I'm pretty sure it was on Planet FPL, I think James mentioned it, that actually we probably should be viewing Tammy as a 10 million striker. I think if he was priced now, he would probably come in 9.5, 10 million quite comfortably. So I think he ticks the boxes for captaincy option. On the plus side for Wilson, he's come up against a Norwich team that have shipped not only the most goals in the division, but the most chances. And it'll be interesting to see Farke's press conference, which is probably being filmed at the moment, as to the players that they've got back. Between those two, personally, I lean towards Abraham, and I think from stats and fixtures wise, they're fairly even, but it's more the psychology of the game that leads me towards going with Abraham. He is owned by 43%. And Wilson is owned by 13%. So in my opinion, all I aim for every week is a green arrow, which is probably like a lot of managers. I think I've got a better chance of getting a green arrow by going with Abraham, because if I go with Wilson, part of me, I'm going to be, I want to be able to on Saturday be willing for both players to score, and I think if you go with Wilson, you're not going to, because of the ownership and potentially the effective ownership of Abraham, you're going to, you're not going to want him to do that well, because actually he could end up getting a hat trick, and it could mean that you may not even progress in the ranks. So I think ownership is because of the vast difference is a big plus for Tammy Abraham, which is strange because I've always tried not to use ownership in my decisions, but I do think in this situation it does make a difference if you're looking for a green arrow. I think on the flip side of that, obviously, if you go with Callum Wilson and he does do proportionately better than Tammy Abraham, the actual size of the green arrow could be bigger, but then obviously you've got to weigh that up against potentially the size of the red arrow should it not go to plan. In terms of other captaincy options, I think we're blessed this week. There's quite a few, so I'll talk through 3 or 4 now. So you've got firstly Harry Kane at Watford. I think Watford are conceding a lot of chances. I think there's a couple of pros for Harry Kane. I think number one, he's going to be captain for Spurs, and I think Spurs need a result. And I think that will really spur Kane on to do well. I just think that his form and underlying stats are not as good as Abraham or Wilson. So in my opinion, he is a good shout, but not as good as those two guys. You've also got Vardy up against Burnley. I think Burnley will provide quite a tough test for Leicester. I expect Leicester to win, but I think historically Vardy's not done great against Burnley. So although he's got a very, very good home record for Brendan Rodgers, whilst he's been the Leicester manager, I still think Wilson and Abraham are better options. Other options to look at, Aubameyang, and a really good stat for Aubameyang is in his last 5 away matches, he's scored 6 and assisted once. I think he's returned in all 5 of those. So he is somebody, I know he's coming up against a tough Sheffield United defence, but he's somebody you could potentially look at. The downside on Aubameyang is the return of Lacazette. Is that going to impact his position? It may not do. He may not get much game time in this match, but it's something to bear in mind. And then also we could look at Liverpool assets. I think both Mane and Salah have never historically fared that great against United. I don't see that game having loads of goals in, and I just think there's bigger hauls elsewhere this week. And then finally, Manchester City. I think this could be, I think anybody that goes with Sterling or De Bruyne could do exceptionally well. I just have slight doubts on both players. And the same with Aguero, given the car crash and potentially niggling injury. I think with De Bruyne, he's coming back from injury. Will he have his minutes managed? Will he potentially come off at the 65-minute mark? And I think with Sterling, he's been pushed out to the left quite a bit, particularly the last few games and definitely against Wolves. So I just want to see how that materialises. I mean, it's worth mentioning, though, that I think the Palace game last year, he did get a brace. So I'm not going to sit on the fence on this one. For me, the best captain option this week is Tammy Abraham, closely followed by Callum Wilson. In terms of my own team, this week I have sold Connor Wickham and Wan-Bissaka. So I've sold both of those two players. And I've bought, who, to be honest, weren't really adding any value to my team. And I've bought in Rico and Callum Wilson. We've talked a lot about Callum Wilson, so I won't go into that. Rico, what I like about him, he's won Bournemouth Player of the Month, and he's been deadly on set pieces. Bournemouth has scored a lot of goals from set pieces. He's got 2 assists. And I also like that he's right, one of the cheapest defenders. So it means I've got both Lundstram and Rico, so it gives me the potentially the cheapest possible bench. So I'm quite happy with that. Even if he loses his place, he'll just end up being last on my bench. So hopefully you found that this video useful. Like I said, I'll try and post a couple per week. So if there are any topics that you want me to post on, do let me know. Please feel free to comment, like, and obviously it'd be great if we can get some new subscribers. So thanks very much, and I wish you a great game week, and hopefully you all get green arrows. Cheers, guys. Bye.